Ooh. It's been a week since I last made a video, folks, and that's because not only do I work 4 times a week, every single week, but I had a few things come up that I had to sort out. However, I'm back, I'm here, and I'm ready to share with you an event that really was unexpected and last minute. You know, I love surprises sometimes, especially when I turn out the way it turned out. Hello and welcome back. Yes, yesterday I went to the Insomnia Games Festival for the very first time ever. Yes, can you believe as a video gamer I've only been to 2 events of that kind. The first one that I went to was the PAX Festival back in 2016 in Manchester at the Trafford Centre, and now I go to Insomnia, which is the biggest one held in the country. And the best part was it was held at the NEC Arena in Birmingham, and I live only 15 minutes away from there on the M42 motorway. It was definitely meant to be. And actually, I had no idea the event was even happening. It was my friend Mitch who brought it up when we were meant to go to Cambridge this weekend. And he said, "Oh, John, I found out that the Insomnia Games Festival is on. Would you like to go?" So I said yes. He bought the tickets, and boom, literally a day later, we were there. So I'm going to talk about it. But before I do, I have a very important part to tell you because we need some context. As you guys just heard, this was my first gaming festival in 8 years, but also, more crucially, it was my first time going to the NEC in 14 years. And this was also the first time that I personally drove me and my friend to the event. And why is all this? My dad was an engineer at Birmingham University at the think tank, and back in 2005 he showed me a video, a DVD in fact, of an event at the NEC involving cars, whether it be supercars or concept cars or just your everyday car coming out soon. And he used to show me all the events where they would do tricks and donuts and stuff like that. A 12-year-old me was enamored by the whole thing and I wanted to go. So in 2006 and every year after that, he took me and my brother and we had a great time. Sadly, as time went on, budgets were shrinking, and when the 2008 financial crisis happened with all the banks and housing and whatnot, and of course we had that massive recession for some time, eventually by 2010 the event just went like this. It shrank, it got worse, the cars were not as interesting, and there were less professional stunt drivers attending. So when my dad took me to the 2010 one, he decided that we'd take a few years off to let the event grow back again and to let the whole financial situation recover again. The next year got cancer and he passed away in 2011. So that was the end of that tradition. And because of that, I never really desired to go back there again for a long time. There are events that did interest me at the NEC throughout the years, but I never felt the need or desire or want to go, because every time I thought about the NEC, I thought of my dad, because he was the one who would take me and my brother, and as a result I just didn't want to go. But eventually, during the pandemic, I wanted to go back, but of course at that time we couldn't go because, well, it was the pandemic. Everything was shut off or cancelled, and we weren't allowed to be officially within, reach of each other. I longed to go back, and I tell you, my god, when I finally went back to the NEC yesterday with my friend, oh my god, it was weird. Well, first of all, just being there felt ominous. All the memories were coming back of my dad taking me and of all the walks we had to do. And then to see the building once again after 14 years, so much has changed. There's new buildings that I hadn't seen before. There were new facilities that had been built since 2010 that I wasn't aware of, and there was just quite a few changes. The overall area itself looks relatively the same, just a bit more modernized. It was just so weird to see how much had changed in 14 years, and I could barely remember what it looked like before then, and to see how it looked now, goodness me. When you step inside, the layout of the place looks similar, although it was definitely beefed up since we were last there. The last time I went in 2010, the area wasn't quite as modern or as well thought out in terms of layout, and there was a lot of new again facilities. There were train lines that I hadn't seen before. There were new shops that propped up. There were new restaurants, just all these things I didn't see when I last went to the NEC Arena in 2010. That being said, once we got to the ticket area and we got through the gate, then the whole area looked familiar. The food sign for the canteen that was inside where you could have a Subway, and the toilets, all those signs are exactly the same as they were when I went last time in 2010. That part had not changed, so the banners hadn't changed, and the whole arena inside, like the arenas and the layout and where all the stores were, they were all the same location, same white hut looking thing with the same naming conventions. They were all the same. Now, of course, this was a gaming convention and not a car convention, so they were different. So that was different. A lot of the huts and things took up nowhere near the amount of room it used to take up for all the different cars. And of course the arenas, because it was all about gaming and not cars, they were a lot more truncated and actually a lot wider, because before they were all full of different cars that littered the walkways, but now it was just full of little stalls. So it was quite interesting to see how much of a difference the event itself made. First time there in 14 years, I was in bliss. So let's talk about the event itself. How did I find it, and do I recommend it to you? And bear in mind, the event is still going on as we speak right now until April the 1st. So if you're interested in going, I suggest you go now before it's too late. So let's talk about the event. What was it like? So it was a gaming festival, and it was full of stalls, like I was saying earlier. When me and my friend first walked in, and we actually got to the actual arena itself, there were all sorts of different arena areas you could go to. You had LAN party events, you had the tent area where people were actually staying over for 1, 2, or probably the whole event. And then you got various stages. You had one literally to the left of you when you first entered through the main entrance. There was another one that was further up if you went right and straight and then right again. There was another area which was full of basically streamers and universities fighting each other in games like Overwatch and whatnot. There was a big area in the middle which had Escape from Tarkov, I think it is. So that was quite a... my friend Mitch took a real interest into that one, and he was definitely enamored by the action. I quite liked it as well, mostly for the gun sounds. They were fun to watch, and seeing everyone just lined up on their PCs trying to play together, and you got a commentator talking about what was going on over the game, as you would do in any sporting event. That was a lot of fun. The event itself had all sorts of little different stores selling different things, from Magic the Gathering to Dungeons and Dragons to enamel pins, retro gaming systems. The army was there for some reason. The army was just there with their massive tank, so that was quite interesting. There was a Just Dance section where people were just dancing to, well, Just Dance the game. I mean, I just looked briefly at that and I went, okay, good, moving on. There was a section where people who loved tabletop games could all play together, so there was plenty of seating arrangements and everyone could play their favourite tabletop game, whether it be Dungeons and Dragons or chess or even card games, whatever it may be. There were stores that were selling Yu-Gi-Oh cards. There were stores selling, obviously, clothing, whether it be the official merchandise of Insomnia or various other bits of clothing from around the world. Of course, there were simulators. There was a couple of racing simulators, mostly Formula 1. There was a section that me and my friend Mitch particularly liked, where we were playing retro games. So we were talking N64, PlayStation 2, Nintendo GameCube, NES, Sega Megadrive, and of course a couple of arcade cabinets. We saw one from the Sega Astro Mini. We saw an Outrun cabinet. We saw the Simpsons arcade game. We saw International Track and Field. We saw a couple of things here and there. And by the way, guys, if you guys are CRT enthusiasts, you'll love this. Most of the screens that we used were indeed CRTs, and guess what? They weren't using composite video. They were using RGB SCART. Yes, they used actual good cables at the event. And let me tell you, although I'm an advocate for great HDMI solutions like the OSSC, I must say, seeing the visuals that I saw with an RGB SCART cable on a CRT, it did look spectacular. I understand now where all the fuss comes from for CRTs, why everyone's like, oh, we must have CRT, but the problem is, and I always say this, people are enthusiastic for the composite video, not S-video, not component, and not RGB SCART. I promise you, if you've not looked at a CRT with an RGB SCART cable before, I promise you, you'll be blown away. It was that good. However, although I was blown away by this, I still maintain that I love my OSSC setup with the HDMI displays, and ultimately, HDMI displays are the norm. So it makes sense for people to try and get the best looking HDMI solution possible for their retro needs, but this is just my opinion. Anyway, back to the event now. So the jux of the event was there were people who you could obviously go and see. I think Pyrocynical, is that his name? He was there in the middle, front and center. I mean, I just looked at him and went, oh, I remember him, he's cool, and I just moved on. There are various YouTubers who did attend, although I didn't really get a feel for them. There was one YouTuber who I did want to see, and that was Nick from Retro Break. Unfortunately, I did not see him. He was there because he's shown photos on Twitter or X or Instagram or whatever, but I never saw him there, so I was quite sad. And I did go past all the same areas that he went past, but these things happen. You're always on the move. You just have to enjoy the experience and move on. I didn't mention as well, I had a lot of good food. So I had donuts, and yes, I love donuts. I've not made that clear enough, I don't think, on this channel. I had a hot dog. I was only going for a burger initially. My friend Mitch did that, but I had a hot dog with these skin on fries. They were delicious. We went to this lady in the middle of the stores, and she had these massive fudge cakes, and we had a stick of this fudge to try it out, and I said, oh, I'll have the chocolate one. Mitch had the white chocolate. They were like this thick, that size, so this size, this thick, and my god, the sugar, my word. I don't even know. I put it to you this way, there was so much sugar in that little thick bar, my mouth was tingling. That's how much sugar there was. Delicious though, just really rich, and I could only eat one of those a day, and even then, I think once a day is probably too much, maybe half of one a day, if I ever have one of those again. Even my friend was struggling to finish it, but he did in the end. Also, while we were there, I bought a Mark I Sega Megadrive. Yes, I was going through the whole event, and I was debating, should I buy anything here? And eventually, on my third viewing of this particular stall, I saw the Sega Mega Drive. I had a little peek at the price because I wanted to know how much it was. Inside, the Mega Drive itself, 2 controllers, and RF. I'm never going to use RF. But for £50, what a deal. I took it straight away, and I don't regret it. I've always wanted a Mark I Mega Drive because they are so much better in terms of design and sound output than the original. Than the Mega Drive 2 that I have. Excuse me, it's not original. Mega Drive 1 is original. And of course, as you can see by the t-shirt, I am, excuse me, a Mega Drive fan. Hold on. There you go, you see. Probably not the best way to show off the t-shirt, but anyway, I am a Mega Drive fan, and I always wanted a Mark I because they're so good. And of course, I wanted to try out the headphone part because the Mega Drive 1s have a built-in headphone jack. So I wonder if my modern headphones will work well with it. I guess we'll find out in the future, won't we? Luckily for me, I know the Mega Everdrive Pro exists. I had one before. I'll buy another one so I can get all the games I want on the Mega Drive, including Mega Drive CD, or Mega CD, pardon me, or just Sega CD for the West. And of course, I'll get myself a SCART cable to get the best looking Mega Drive experience possible. So you can see I'm already well versed and I'm ready. I also bought the Mega Drive 1 because there's some games out there that were released on cartridge that are new, and I was interested in buying them for the collection. Perhaps one day I can do this? Who knows? Overall folks, how did I find the event? It was quite good. It was spacious, it was big, loads of people were there, quite a lot of cosplayers were there as you imagine, a lot of different stores. I will say I was disappointed by 2 things. First of all, there was not enough retro gaming ones. I.e. there were not enough stores selling retro titles. I never saw Sega Saturn. I barely saw PlayStation or PlayStation 2. There was a couple ones with N64 games and even Game Boy. That was good to see, but just not enough variety and not enough stores doing this. Also, I feel there should be more games at the event as well. There was too many esports, too many like Formula 1. Not enough variety. There should have been one for fighting games, one for racing games, especially rally games. I love a good rally game. And there should have been more just consoles in general. I mean, there was no Atari Jaguar there. There was no 3DO. There was no Dreamcast. Okay, there was Crazy Taxi there, but there was no Dreamcast console, which I was quite shocked by. So there should have been more variety. And most of the games that were there were just fighting games and go-karting games, which look, I love fighting games, they are my favourite, but there was only Street Fighter 4, where's Street Fighter Alpha 2 or 3, where was Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and you know, but, and also there should have been a few more arcade games, but overall, I felt the whole thing was fun, the facilities were good, there was a lot to do there, definitely plenty to see. The toilets, which I know are a big contention about these places, at least the men's toilet was nice and clean and plentiful, and the food there was quite good, quite tasty. A little bit expensive, but hey, it's a convention, what do you expect? And even the parking, that was the shocking part. £5 all day. I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh, it's going to be expensive, it's a convention, loads of people will be here, it's going to cost a lot of money. Nope, £5 all day. I don't understand how that worked, but look, I'm happy, okay? I've had it where you go to convention by car, which is the most convenient way to go, and they tell you, oh, because you went by car, you got to pay 20 quid to pay just to stay here for the whole day. No. Eventually, we left at 4:30, which I think was plenty of time, considering that we'd been there since 9:30. We had to get there early. And overall, I had a great time. Definitely, I'd call it an 8 out of 10 experience. And bearing in mind, each day has different events going on. So, Good Friday, which was obviously yesterday recording this video, had the least amount. Of course, the weekends are always going to be a lot busier because more people are actually off work for those events, and of course, you know, being a bank holiday weekend, everyone was going to flock there. So for me, I reckon if you're there today, and Sunday for that matter, your experience there will be very different from mine because I went on Good Friday and you've gone on the weekend. But still, despite that, definitely a great return to the NEC for me. I would give the event an 8 out of 10, no problem. Again, the criticisms are mostly just lack of variety with the gaming for the arcade and the retro stuff, and maybe I could have had a few more stores. But overall, a good time, and it was just great to see the community come out in droves, whether in cosplay or not, and just having a great time. And I certainly had a great time myself, and to go back to the NEC after 14 years was certainly worth it. This was one man's take on the whole event though, so please you let me know if you went to the NEC Arena in Birmingham recently to go and see Insomniac. What did you think of it? What did you see? Did you buy anything? What would you suggest for improvements, and most importantly, which day did you feel was the best if you went for the whole 3 or 4 days? Would it be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or perhaps Monday if it is open on Easter Monday? Until next time, I will see you soon.